from the street. Her parents' house looked like a postcard, painted shutters, white fence, roses that always seemed to bloom on time, but inside that perfect picture lived a girl who never quite belonged. Jenna grew up learning that love could be selective. Her parents adored her older sister Sarah. Sarah's paintings covered every wall. Sarah's trophies filled the cabinets. Sarah's laughter filled the air. When Jenna tried to join in, conversation simply moved past her, like she wasn't even there. Dinner was the worst. Her father, Mark, would talk about Sarah's grades while Jenna quietly passed the salt. Her mother, Ellen, would nod proudly and never once ask how Jenna's day had been. By the time dessert came, Jenna had mastered the art of smiling through silence. She didn't hate them. She just wanted to be seen. Christmas was supposed to fix everything, or so Jenna thought when she was little. She would spend weeks making handmade cards, wrapping tiny gifts from her allowance. But every Christmas morning felt the same. Sarah got hugs. Jenna got handshakes. By her 20s, the pattern hardened into tradition. Every December, she'd call home. "Hey, Mom, should I book a flight for Christmas?" "Oh, honey," Ellen would sigh. "The house is packed this year. Sarah and Mike are bringing the kids, and Mike's parents too. There just isn't room. No room." Those two words became the soundtrack of her adulthood. At first, Jenna offered to sleep on the couch, the floor, anywhere. Her mother always had a reason. The couch was broken. The floor too cold. The kids needed space. Eventually, Jenna stopped asking and started booking hotel rooms near her hometown. She'd arrive with presents, join dinner, pretend the cold distance didn't sting, and leave before the night was over. The 7th year of this routine began like all the others. Jenna juggling deadlines at her marketing job, buying thoughtful gifts, trying to ignore the dread crawling in her stomach. When she reached her parents' doorstep, a strange car blocked the driveway. Inside, through frosted windows, she saw laughter, flashing lights and warmth. Her father opened the door, blinking in surprise. "Jenna? We didn't think you were coming. You said I could, right?" she asked, confused. Of course," he muttered, stepping aside. But inside, every seat was taken. Sarah's in-laws had even turned Jenna's old bedroom into a guest suite. She saw their luggage where her childhood posters used to hang. Her mother smiled awkwardly. "Sweetheart, I hope you don't mind, but Mike's parents are in your room. You can find a motel nearby, yes?" The words sliced through her like thin glass. "Sure," Jenna whispered. "A motel. Merry Christmas." That night she sat on a cheap hotel bed, eating vending machine snacks, watching snow drift across the parking lot. The ache inside her chest felt older than she was. She could have called a friend, gone home early, done anything, but she didn't. She just stared at the ceiling and promised herself one thing. Someday, I'll have a home where I belong. Back in Florida, the new year found Jenna working harder than ever. She poured her loneliness into ambition. If family couldn't give her a place, she'd build one herself. Days blurred into nights at the tech marketing firm where she worked. She volunteered for extra projects, learned coding basics, even started freelancing. Her co-workers joked that she was married to her job. They didn't know she was really married to freedom. By 29, she had savings big enough to consider buying property. One Saturday morning, she drove down a quiet coastal road and saw it. Small 2-story house with sea blue shutters and sunlight spilling across the porch. It wasn't fancy, but when she stepped inside, she felt peace, something she'd never felt in her parents' home. No ghosts of disappointment, no silence heavy with comparison, just empty rooms waiting for her laughter. 2 months later, it was hers, her name alone on the deed. She cried the day she got the keys, not out of sadness but relief. This house wasn't proof that she'd made it. It was proof that she'd survived. She didn't tell her parents right away. Part of her wanted to protect the peace she'd finally found. But one afternoon, as she unpacked dishes, her phone lit up. "Mom, home." She hesitated, then answered. "Jenna, dear, Christmas plans. Just wanted to let you know Aunt Linda's coming again." "So maybe you shouldn't this year." "We're tight on space." Jenna smiled faintly, looking around at her spacious kitchen. "That's fine, Mom. I'll celebrate here." "In my new house?" "New house?" her mother repeated. You bought one. Yeah, 4 bedrooms near the beach. A pause. Well, isn't that nice? Maybe we'll visit sometime. Maybe, Jenna said. They ended the call with polite small talk. But Jenna could feel the shift, a sudden interest her parents had never shown before. 2 weeks later, her sister called. Sugary sweet. Mum told me you bought a house. That's amazing, Jenna. The kids would love the beach. Maybe we could all stay with you for the holidays? Jenna nearly dropped her mug. You're kidding, right? No, it'll be fun. One big family Christmas. One big family. The same family that never had space for her. Sorry, Sarah, Jenna said, her voice steady. There's no room. Oh, come on. You've got 4 bedrooms. Exactly, Jenna replied. 4 bedrooms, and every one of them is already full. With who? Peace, silence, and self-respect. She hung up before Sarah could reply. A week before Christmas, her parents showed up unannounced. Jenna opened the door to see her mother holding a tin of cookies and her father shivering in a jacket that looked too thin for winter. We were driving down to visit Sarah, her mother said quickly, and thought we'd stop by. See the house? Sure, Jenna replied cautiously. They stepped inside, admiring everything. Her father nodded approvingly at the decor. Her mother traced her fingers along the counter. You did all this yourself? Yes. It's beautiful, really. Then came the inevitable. You know, her mother began, Sarah's family is a bit cramped this Christmas. Maybe we could stay here instead, just for a few nights. Jenna set down her tea. Her heartbeat was calm now, steady. That's funny, she said softly. Because I remember asking you that same thing for years. Oh, Jenna, don't be childish. You're right, Jenna interrupted. Well, I'm not a child anymore, which is why I finally have a home that feels safe. And I'm keeping it that way. Her mother blinked. You can't mean that. I do. She walked them to the door, just like they'd done to her so many times before. Her father opened his mouth, then closed it again. Take care, Jenna said gently, and shut the door. On the other side, silence, the same silence she once feared, now completely hers. That Christmas, Jenna woke to sunlight streaming through the windows, not the sound of family arguments. She made coffee, lit candles, and played music. Her living room was filled with laughter, not from blood relatives, but from friends who'd become her true family, co-workers, neighbours, people who appreciated her for who she was. As she watched them unwrap gifts and dance near the fireplace, she realised something. She wasn't getting revenge, she was reclaiming her peace. But still, she smiled when her phone buzzed with another message from her mother. We're sorry, Jenna. We didn't mean to hurt you all those years. Jenna typed back, I know. But some lessons take space to learn. Merry Christmas. She hit send, set the phone down, and went back to her friends. Outside, waves crashed softly against the shore, the sound of freedom. Lena stood on the sidewalk with her old suitcase, the city air brushing her face like a cold reminder that time had moved on without her. She had left 5 years ago with nothing but heartbreak and a single thought. Someday, I'll come back stronger. Now that someday had arrived, inside the mansion, the same one that used to echo her laughter, Mara sat at the dining table, scrolling on her phone. She didn't notice the knock at first, but when it came again, sharp and steady, her stomach turned. Something about the rhythm of it felt familiar, irritatingly familiar. When she opened the door, Lena was standing there, calm, composed, beautiful in a quiet, terrifying way. Mara froze. You? Yes, Lena said simply. Me. For a moment the world seemed to stop. The air between them carried the ghosts of everything unspoken, betrayal, jealousy, and 100 unhealed wounds. I don't know what you're doing here, Mara said, forcing a laugh. You can't just show up. Lena raised a hand, stopping her mid-sentence. Relax. I didn't come to fight. I came to thank you. Mara blinked, unsure if she'd heard correctly. Thank me? Yes, Lena said, stepping inside. Her heels clicked on the marble, every step a note in a symphony of revenge. Because if you hadn't betrayed me, I would have never learned how strong I could be. Over coffee that Mara didn't want but couldn't refuse, Lena told her story. She'd rebuilt herself from the ground up, started a small business, studied marketing, turned that business into a brand that people whispered about in boardrooms. She'd been on magazine covers, interviewed on podcasts, even featured in a documentary about women who survived betrayal. Mara tried to hide her shock. She'd assumed Lena disappeared into the background of life, that she was still broken somewhere far away. But now, sitting across from her, she saw something terrifying. Power wrapped in grace. "Good for you," Mara muttered, forcing a smile. "You seem to have done well?" "I did," Lena said, her eyes steady. "And you? How's your perfect life with David?" Mara stiffened. The question cut deeper than any accusation. Her marriage was crumbling, and Lena somehow knew. Maybe it was written in the way her husband stopped looking at her, or in the way her smile cracked every time she mentioned his name. Lena didn't need to shout, accuse, or destroy anything. She just existed, calm, successful, radiant, and that was enough to haunt Mara. When Lena left that day, she didn't look back. She didn't have to. But the next morning, something changed in the city's social air. Photos of Lena attending. An exclusive charity gala circulated online, wearing a custom gown, arm in arm with one of the city's most influential investors. The caption read, "Lena Grey, founder of Grey & Co., returns home as the event's keynote sponsor." Mara saw it all from her phone, the same way people once watched Lena fall apart. Except this time, it was Mara who couldn't breathe. Weeks later, fate, or karma, delivered the final twist. David's company faced a financial crisis, and the only firm capable of rescuing it was Grey & Co. When the meeting invitation arrived, David tried to hide it from Mara, but she found out anyway. Her face drained of colour when she saw the name at the bottom of the email, CEO, Lena Grey. The day of the meeting, Lena entered the boardroom wearing confidence like armour. David stood, startled, unable to form words. Mara sat beside him, her hands trembling beneath the table. "Good morning," Lena said smoothly. "Shall we discuss business?" It wasn't revenge through violence or cruelty. It was poetic justice, a full circle of dignity. She negotiated every clause with precision, her tone professional, her eyes unreadable. When the deal was done, she stood up, extended her hand and said, "Thank you for the opportunity. I wish you both peace." And just like that, she walked away, leaving behind two people who finally understood what no room for you truly meant. When the boardroom door closed behind her, Lena exhaled for the first time in years. The echo of her own footsteps down the marble corridor didn't sound like loneliness anymore. It sounded like freedom. Outside, the city shimmered in late afternoon light. It was the same skyline she used to stare at through tears, but now every glass tower reflected her growth. For years she'd carried anger like armour, yet standing there she realised her victory wasn't in destroying anyone, it was in becoming untouchable. She took a deep breath, the kind that fills every corner of the chest. "It's over," she whispered, and this time it wasn't a surrender, it was a declaration. That evening, while Mara and David sat in the silence of their dimly lit living room, guilt moved between them like a ghost. David finally said what they had both been avoiding. "She didn't even try to hurt us." Mara's voice broke. "That's what hurts the most, because the kind of revenge that leaves no blood, no chaos, just peace, burns far deeper. It forces people to live with the reflection of what they destroyed." Lena never posted about that meeting, never spoke of it again, but people whispered. Clients who once ignored her now sought her advice. The story of the woman who rose from betrayal to empire became a quiet legend in entrepreneurial circles, a case study in emotional intelligence and perseverance. 6 months later, Lena bought a piece of land on the outskirts of the city, a forgotten place overgrown with weeds and old stones. Where others saw ruin, she saw rebirth. She turned it into the Haven Project, a retreat for women rebuilding their lives after betrayal, divorce, or loss. Each weekend, small groups arrived, some crying, some silent, some still searching, and every Sunday evening they left lighter. Lena taught them the lesson she had learned the hardest way. Revenge isn't always about payback. Sometimes it's about proving you can live beautifully without the people who once broke you. The project grew faster than she expected. Journalists wrote about it. Social media influencers shared her quotes. Hashtags like Hum Rise Again, Tonk Healing Us Power, and Lena Grey story began trending. Her story became SEO gold, keywords of resilience, empowerment, an emotional comeback wrapped naturally into the narrative of her life. Yet none of it was planned. It was simply truth shared at the right time. One rainy afternoon, a visitor arrived unannounced. Mara. Her eyes were tired, her designer coat soaked. She stood at the entrance, hesitant, clutching a small white envelope. Lena recognized her instantly. "Come in," she said quietly. Inside, the warmth of candles and faint music softened the tension. Mara placed the envelope on the table. "It's not money," she said quickly. "It's a letter." Lena waited as she spoke, every word trembling. "I came to say sorry, not because I want forgiveness, just because I finally see what I destroyed." Lena didn't interrupt. She listened, just like she wished someone had listened to her years ago. When Mara finished, silence stretched between them. Gentle, heavy, human. Finally, Lena said, "I forgave you a long time ago. You just didn't know it." Mara's eyes filled with tears. For the first time, she smiled without bitterness. "You really did become someone I could never compete with." Lena shook her head. "You were never supposed to." They hugged, not as friends, not as enemies, but as two women who finally put the past to rest.